Well, hello everyone and welcome back to Oh Yum. I have another fantastic recipe for you. Today, I'm making baked apple cider donuts, just like you get at the fall fair. This is an easy recipe to make because you're baking, not frying the donuts. So join me. I love apple desserts, basically any time of year, but particularly in fall. And these are just so easy to make. The only step that takes a little time is reducing your apple cider. And I'll talk about that in a minute. Right off the top, I'm going to get going with my wet ingredients. So this is a 1-bowl recipe. You mix everything in this base bowl. I've got my equal amounts of brown sugar and granulated sugar. I'll add to that my teaspoon of vanilla. These donuts are all about building in as much delicious aroma as you can. So I'm layering the combination of fall spices with vanilla at the same time. I'll also add 2 eggs. And I have my butter melting behind me. We'll get a whisk at the same time. So first I'll get my mixture whisking. So it's just the 2 sugars, 2 eggs, and the vanilla and apple cider. Now this is what I wanted to talk to you about. To concentrate that apple flavor, what I want you to do is take 4 cups of unsweetened apple cider. And it's important to use the unsweetened because if you were to use sweetened and reduce it, it would end up being like an apple caramel. It would be too sticky, almost like a syrup. So pure unsweetened apple cider. If you don't have access to apple cider, just a natural apple juice. So even though a regular apple juice would work fine if it were a clear style, but I do like that intensity of the cloudy style apple cider. So this volume, a full liter of apple cider, reduces down to 1 cup. 1 cup total. So this is what the pan looks like after you've reduced the apple cider, and you want to let it cool down before you pour it into your batter. But I always like to double check my measurement, taking it off the heat. Sometimes you accidentally over reduce. Oh, I've got exactly what I need. And don't be dissuaded by the residue on your pot. This cleans up easily. Honestly, dish soap and a little sponge, you don't even have to scrub and it comes right out. You can see the color difference and you can tell the intensity of apple flavor is going to be built in there. And should you over reduce your apple cider, well, you can just top up with more apple cider or even a little water because that's what's evaporating when you're reducing your apple cider. And obviously if there's more, you just cook it down a little bit. I find it takes about 15 minutes on a medium-high heat to reduce the apple cider, that volume. All right, so in goes my cider. And typical to those sort of fall country style donuts, I do love a good sour cream donut, so I add ½ a cup of sour cream. If you don't have access to sour cream, of course, you can use a Greek yogurt, a plain Greek yogurt. Grab my sour cream spatula here. There we go. You know what? I've been looking for this spatula and it was in the drawer the whole time because usually I keep them over there. Do you ever misplace things in your kitchen? And of course you're convinced you know where it should be, but it doesn't always end up there. So give this just a second to whisk by hand to break up any sour cream bits that are in there. Nice and smooth. Greek yogurt blends in just as evenly. And I should mention, this recipe makes 24 donuts, so it's quite a big batch of baked donuts. And a reminder, yes, they are baked. Now to sift our dry ingredients. I've got my all-purpose flour, and you can sift this right over your wet mixture, so you don't have to do it in a separate bowl unless that's easier for you. And you may remember when I was making my peanut butter crisscross cookies last week, I talked about sifting versus not sifting, and a recipe like peanut butter cookies that end up so flat and dense, you don't always have to sift, you just have to make sure your leavening agents are combined. When I'm making a cake recipe, anything cakey, I always sift, and this donut recipe is no exception. Now, I've got my combination of spices. I've got cinnamon, ginger, nutmeg, and salt, and I realize I should hold out the nutmeg and not put it in whole. I'll grate that separately. And I'll also add my baking powder. I'll give that a little sift. And I'll take a second and grate in my nutmeg. If you've got pre-ground nutmeg, obviously it can go in with your dry ingredients and be sifted in. There's something about apple and nutmeg that just pairs beautifully together in combination with ginger and cinnamon. If you prefer to use a pumpkin spice blend or pre-spice, even a gingerbread style baking blend, you can, but I like the simplicity of just the cinnamon, nutmeg, and ginger in this recipe. And now another whisk. The consistency of your batter will very much depend on how warm your butter and your cider are. If they're still quite warm, you'll find you have quite a fluid batter. If you let them cool completely to room temperature, you may find you have a slightly thicker batter. And this will determine how you get this batter from the bowl into your donut pans. So it's looking like my butter and cider were a little bit warm, and I should be able to pour this batter. Want it nice and smooth. Or should I pipe it? Decisions. It is a cool, crisp fall day here in Southern Ontario. I think I might have more luck. It's cool in this room, and so you can see it's actually thickening as I talk about it. So I think I'm gonna opt for the piping bag. But like I said, if it's a warm day or your ingredients are very warm, you would transfer your batter into a pitcher like this and pour it to fill your donut tin. But yeah, this has enough structure to it that I'm going to pipe it. Yeah, look at how that batter is standing up on its own. That can handle a piping bag without being too messy. Just take a moment for a little tidy up because we are baking real time here. Now it's a fair bit of batter because it does make 24 donuts. And I wish you could smell the kitchen right now because right before we started rolling cameras, I put in a batch of donuts just so I could show you what they're like coming out of the oven warm, and because you want to roll them in your cinnamon sugar while they're warm. So I wanted to have that ready for you. And we've got just about 4 minutes left on those donuts. We had a nice frost on the lawn and the rooftops this morning, so you can tell we're making that transition into true fall season here. I love hearing where you're watching from, so please let me know below where you're watching from and what it's like outside, and is it inspiring you to bake? And if it's not inspiring you to bake cider donuts, what are you inspired to make? Because I bet I have a recipe right here on the channel for you. Okay, let me get every last bit. Boy, that is one full piping bag. Just gonna step away to drop off my bowl and bring my donut tins. I have 2 of them, lightly greased. They're non-stick donut tins. And now here is a quandary, what to do if you don't have a baking donut tin. Well, you can make these as apple cider muffins just as easily, and it'll make 24 muffins. Your bake time will be a little different. And where these bake for 15 minutes at 400 degrees, I would bake the muffins for 375 at 375 for about 20 minutes. And you'll get the same result, and you can pop them out warm and roll them in the cinnamon sugar just as easily. So I want to give you these resources so you'll make these recipes, give them a try, and then come back and let me know how they turned out. Okay, so now with these donuts, I fill them almost to the top. Another pan ready to go. And these are all set for the oven. And look at that. I've got a timer just below the camera so I could keep an eye on the donut muffins that are, the donuts that are in the oven. So I'm just going to give them a little check. Yes, perfect, perfect timing. Out these come. Trade them with the ones to go in the oven. So my neighbor Bonnie, who's such a loyal fan, knows she'll be getting some of these apple cider donuts today. And let me bring my donut coating kit over and show these to you. So you can see how lovely they rise up. And before I go too much further, what you want to do is work with the donuts while they're warm. Woo. So tip them out. And they've got that nice, even shape to them. They're not too domed on one side or the other. And while they're warm, what I like to do is roll them in cinnamon sugar. So the recipe for cinnamon sugar, it's as much cinnamon as you like, but I generally put about a teaspoon of cinnamon for every 1 cup of sugar. And while the donuts are still sort of steamy and warm, that sugar clings on. Not too much, just enough, because you've got a nice amount of sweetness inside. The difference between a baked donut and a fried donut rarely has sugar or has a small amount of it, because if you're deep frying at such a high temperature, it will over brown. Where a baked donut builds the sugar within the recipe itself. So you don't need tons of sugar on the outside, unlike a fried donut. Though, you know, a good jelly donut absolutely smothered in icing sugar is pretty delicious. So just a little toss adds a bit of sparkle to the donuts. And they don't take long to cool. I do enjoy eating them just a little bit warm, so you might want to plan that when you're baking it. That said, you could make this batter ahead of time and hold it. Then I would definitely pipe it because it will set up if it has time to sit. And then bake that when you want to serve them warm. Oh, I got one, you can tell the back corner of the oven got a little over toasted. You know what, over years I've become accustomed to eating the overcooked cookie or overcooked baked good from that one corner in the oven that now I have a craving. I over toast my toast in the morning because I just like that taste. So that'll be the one I taste. Put it over there. Yum, yum, yum. I might as well finish this all off right now in front of you. No need to rush. Well, just like a fried donut, these apple cider donuts are best enjoyed the day they're made. But that said, they do keep well overnight, better than a fried donut. What you may find is once you pack them in an airtight container, because of the moisture of the donut itself, that the cinnamon sugar on the outside starts to melt away a little bit, and but the donut itself will taste good. So optimal on the day you make it, pretty good on day 2. If you want to make ahead and freeze and just skip the cinnamon sugar altogether, of course you can do that and make them very well ahead of time. Now you saw how easy that these are to make, and I know you're going to want to jump in the kitchen and give these a try. I'll break into one so you can see that soft inside. Oh, I can just smell that apple cinnamon flavor. Oh yeah. Not too sweet, and of course baked, not fried. But you really pick up that concentration of the apple flavor. If you just use a cup of straight apple cider, you wouldn't get that apple intensity. This is a beautiful treat. I've got to put the kettle on because I need a cup of tea with these apple cider donuts. I hope you'll give this recipe a try. And I've got another exciting recipe coming your way, so join me soon right here on Oh Yum. Make sure you subscribe to be alerted. See you soon.